Mahomes has Jerick McKinnon as his back, galloping away. Mahomes pressured, escaping again. Mahomes got the first down and goes down inbounds before the touchdown that will end the game.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm Connor Rogers alongside Matthew Berry and Jay Croucher. You see it right there. Jets plus 9.5 bettors. You drink for free today.
Right. By the way, easily could have said if you bet the under, you drink for free as well, because both things cashed on that play. I also heard from a lot of managers who had Patrick Mahomes and they needed that touchdown to get over the hump, or that they were playing against Mahomes and were like, thank goodness I squeaked by with a less than 6-point victory. Yeah, it's amazing. What a smart football play, maybe, because they ended up winning, but we would have loved to seen him get in.
Yeah, every time I see that, it reminds me of the Ahmad Bradshaw play in the Super Bowl, where he allegedly tried to stop and not fall into the end zone to win the Super Bowl. I still reckon he wanted to go in and score the game-winning touchdown.
How could you not?
Yeah,
it's human nature.
But the right play from Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, not from our perspective, but from an NFL perspective, certainly, I believe, Jay, that's why they call it betting.
Yes.
The positives is that his passing yards under prop cashed, which was my Barry's bet on Football Night in America the night before. He was under his passing yards prop, and his rushing over prop hit as well, which we like. So there you go. And apparently through one game, Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes are BFFs. So there you go.
And Donna Kelsey traveling the NFL East Coast.
Yeah.
It continues.
Exactly.
What a ride for Donna Kelsey.
You see, I just have to say this. Like NFL. Do you guys follow NFL memes? The
Yes.
NFL IG memes. That I don't know who runs that account. They never miss. That account never misses, and they did one.
Oh, I know where you're
going. They did
going.
one with Travis Kelce and Zach Wilson both looking up in the stands, and Travis looking for Taylor Swift, and obviously Zach looking for Donna Kelsey. All right.
Hey, Zach Wilson can do what he wants now.
You know what? Good for Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
In all
Confident
seriousness,
quarterbacking performance.
In all seriousness, I know people are going to harp on the fumble, and there's a couple of missed plays in there, but honestly, if you had never watched a football game before in your life, and you took the names off the jerseys, and that was the first football game you ever saw in your life, and you said, who's the better quarterback? I don't think you would be able to say, 15 in the red is clearly significantly better than the other guy. I mean, again, Mahomes had a couple of picks as well. Wilson had the bad fumble, but honestly, the Jets did not lose that game because of Zach Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson, he wasn't magnificent, but he looked like a real NFL quarterback. He didn't look out of place out there, and that's the first time you can say that in quite a long time. And it just reinforces my point from last week that we just cannot have the Jets and Patriots continue to play games of football against each other, because it's just the worst spectacle ever, and Wilson melts. But what did you see out of your quarterback, Connor?
He just finally looked confident and let the ball go and targeted Garrett Wilson. Seems like a good idea, right? 14 targets for Garrett Wilson. Obviously, Breece Hall was pretty efficient with the touches he got. So I think for Zach Wilson, you come out of that game and think, okay, we have an offense that can work off of play action and respect the run a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a weird game plan from Hackett, just in the sense of it's like, why aren't you running more? The 3rd and 1, that blew my mind. But maybe, if you're trying to give a little credit, where maybe the point was this guy's going to be on a national stage. We think we can throw against the Chiefs. Where I'm going to get this kid's confidence back. That's the goal, and I think more or less, he did that.
He was right.
Yeah, I mean, right. So they threw early enough, and I think the takeaway is not that you're going to go out and pick up Zach Wilson. We'll talk about waivers tomorrow, but just that you can, if you have Garrett Wilson on your team, you can breathe a sigh of relief because, it looked like a competent NFL offense that can get the ball to their best playmaker. And you have to figure Breece Hall's production is coming along with that soon.
Yep, and now they get the Broncos next week, and Zach Wilson will be quarterback for that game. There was a chance that last night could have gone really south, and that's just him done. He'll be the quarterback for that game. The Broncos, I don't understand how they're so bad defensively, but apparently they're the worst defense in football now, and so this should be a favorable matchup for Garrett Wilson.
And by the way,
Breece Hall.
depending on your how deep your league is, I mean, we're in a 12-team 2-quarterback league here, and there are going to be buys next week in Week 5, right? Kenny Pickett is going to be missing some time as well. We'll talk about all that. you may need to start Zach Wilson this week against the Broncos, and it's not a crazy idea. We'll talk about it on waivers tomorrow.
All right, we have a lot to get through today. Of course, Weekend Warriors, Sunday Scaries coming your way, but let's get into the Rotoworld player news as we always do. For all of your player news, go to NBCSports.com, and let's start with the one that had the most hype going into the weekend, guys, the Bills against the Dolphins. But the Bills in Buffalo sucked all of the hype away from Miami real quickly, Barry.
The Bills are good. Hashtag, analysis. But the Bills are really good. Again, you guys are going to call me a homer for this comment, but the Bills destroyed the Commanders last week, and I think
is that the take?
No, but in all seriousness, I think the Commanders went on the road and proved at Philadelphia the Commanders are a better team than I think they get credit for. Jay Croucher, even somebody as esteemed as you admitted.
I've never seen Jay laugh this hard in my life.
Jay,
the Bills beating the Dolphins is proof that the Commanders are good. Okay, interesting take. The first take as well from that came from you. Number one.
You misunderstood me. You misunderstood me. I mean, I think that is one of the takeaways. But no, I'm saying that my point is that it is a proof that my point is that we think the Commanders are a better team than you give them credit for. And when you start with that premise, the Bills destroyed them a week ago, and now here comes the hottest team in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins, who just put up 70 in an actual NFL game in 2023, and the Bills handle them pretty easily as well. So that's all I'm saying is that I think we should have thought this Bills team was better than we initially did as well. I think, a lot of people had this game as a pick-em. A lot of people thought Miami would come in and win this game. They didn't come close, and I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time on Josh Allen or Stefon Diggs doing what superstar fantasy players do. Worth noting, though, Gabe Davis, second straight game with a touchdown, which is nice to see as that offense starts clicking. Gabe Davis is when he scores, he's good. When he doesn't, not so much. So, again, he is a red zone threat. He had, a lot of scoring 2 years ago in limited time. Last year, not so much. Fully healthy. They're going to be scoring a lot. Gabe Davis will be a part of it. Last thing to note from this game very quickly on the Bills side, seemed to be more participation from Dalton Kincaid, which is interesting and encouraging as well. So we appreciate that. And our long national nightmare is over. James Cook got into the end zone.
Yeah, he did. Just lastly on the Bills as well, Josh Allen, now the MVP favorite. That flipped in quite a hurry. Tua was the favorite, now he is not. And the Bills are still plus 800 to win the Super Bowl. They're the fourth favorite. Kansas City's plus 550. I think the Bills are just better than Kansas City right now, given how the Kansas City offense hasn't been all world. The Bills have a better defense. Trey White tearing his Achilles is terrible news, and that will hurt them going forward. But I still think they are the best and most complete team in the AFC. Maybe not in football. The Niners might have something to say about that. But Connor, on the other side of the ball, Mostert, Achane, that was the big discussion point coming in. I thought Achane would have a bad day yesterday, and people annihilated me on Twitter as a result. Now, to be fair, in my defense, what I thought was that he might not get a lot of work. He had 8 carries.
Right.
It's just apparently he's the greatest running back of all time with limited work and gets the 2 touchdowns. And I think, Connor, the main thing is that his snap percentage is going up, and it seems like he is the guy now over Mostert.
Right, and we could see Jeff Wilson back soon, which will make this even more complicated than it already is. And I think for Achane, you look at the opportunity or being opportunistic down inside the 20 and the big run ability. And not that Mostert doesn't have that, right? I think with Mostert, what you're concerned about in this game is the 2 fumbles, of course, as well.
Exactly.
Right? That's where, in a backfield where everybody could kind of eat in this when Jeff Wilson is back, you can't cough up the ball in these mistake-free games. You need to be mistake-free against the Buffalo Bills to win. And Achane, he's just the most explosive rookie in that most explosive runner in that backfield. And obviously, they're only going to ramp up his workload, like you hinted at, Jay.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, a couple of things. First off, I'm just excited people found you on Twitter, Jay, to yell at you. So to me, you're mad at the people who are yelling at you on Twitter. I'm excited people realize you have a Twitter, and they actually found you at CroucherJD.
Yeah, start pissing people off more. It's a good strategy.
Please give him a follow.
Yep.
I think you can be his 4th follower. And if you follow right now.
Less tweets about the Magpies, more about Devin Achane being no good.
Exactly. He promises less Magpie tweets. And it's only his Instagram that's about his kids. All right, so, but yeah, I think Connor, you bring up the exact right point. I think their touches are fairly even in the first half, and then he had the 2 fumbles are what kills you. One happened, I think, in the first half. One was in the second half, and then they just kind of went to Achane. And so, I'm still starting Raheem Mostert next week. I'm still not worried about this. I will say, however, that you feel really good if you use a late round pick on Devon Achane. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that Connor's the only undefeated team in our league, in our show league, because he's got Achane. I have Mostert. I'm annoyed. I was bitter at him, very angry at him.
Well, I mean, these things
stealing
flip.
Achane from me.
Even yesterday, you would have preferred to have Mostert the rest of the season,
That's
and now
correct.
it's flipped, and now
I
it's
think
Achane,
so.
and now who knows? It could flip again.
Wait till Jeff Wilson enters the fray.
Well, right, and I don't think, by the way, and I mean, like, I don't think Jeff Wilson Jr. is I wouldn't mind stashing him.
Yeah.
Like, because you never know, right? Especially, by the way, Achane was banged up a little bit in the preseason. Mostert's obviously dealt with health injuries throughout his career. So, yes, this week I will have Achane ranked ahead of Mostert, but I will have both still as top 20 plays against the Giants in a home game against the Giants that'll be traveling on a short week.
Yep, Giants and then home to Carolina next 2 weeks for the Dolphins. So they will get right, and there'll be lots of yards and touchdowns to go around.
Yeah.
Let's move over to the Broncos-Bears game, a get-well game for Justin Fields, as much as the ending was very disappointing.
Can we talk about this for 1 second? So in our show league, in our show league, I have a very good team. Coming into the week, I was 3-0. I had the number 1 team in the league. You were second.
But you were high
3-0.
scorer.
I was high scorer. I had the most points. And I was playing our producer, Steven D'Agostino, who's a diehard Jaguars fan. And so, like, his quarterback is Justin Fields. And so the one week that I have to play, the 1 week that Justin Fields is any good at all is the week, of course, that he's playing against me for Steven. And so what does he do? He goes off because of course he does. Of course he does, Jay. And
Matthew, last week you had Raheem Mostert against me.
Yes.
Yesterday he went 7 rushes for 9
fantasy.
yards. He had 46
Mostert
points.
did nothing yesterday. Mostert did nothing
That's
yesterday.
how it breaks, my friend.
What's
The game is the game.
Yeah,
Sometimes players have good games, sometimes they have bad games.
Don't
Matthew.
explain fantasy football to me. Don't explain it rationally to me. Absolutely not. I
Your players
to,
always play
right,
well.
exactly. They should play well for me and poorly against me. Exactly. So I'm super annoyed. I had like the 4th highest score in the league, I believe, and yet I still lost. I suffered my first loss to Steven at the hands of Justin Fields, and really, if you think about it, at the hands of Sean Payton. Because, here's a question. What's more embarrassing for the Broncos defense? Giving up 70 to the Dolphins or giving up 28 to the Bears or whatever it is they gave up, right? I believe they gave up 28.
Yeah, down 28-7.
Yeah, they needed a huge comeback.
Honestly, they gave up almost 30 points to the Bears. Like, I legit think that's a question. What's more embarrassing?
Yeah. Potentially the Bears, and it was the most irrelevant 28-7 comeback of all time.
Nobody
I don't think
cared.
anyone feels
Nobody
good
cared.
about the Broncos. I find it funny that Marvin Mims, he had a long catch reception of 48 yards and finished with 47 yards receiving on the day, which kind of sums up the Marvin Mims experience
That
this
really
year.
is. You're seeing Fields here. Big day for Fields. Basically, we're at the point where the recipe for having a good fantasy day on offense, if you're struggling, is to play the Broncos. Just being honest.
Yeah, by the way, I wouldn't mind. I will say, I think, hopefully, look, it was but it felt like he turned the corner a little bit, and maybe this is the game. Remember, he started slow last year as well. Their upcoming schedule, so they're at Washington on Thursday Night Football, so that's a short week. Don't love them against my mighty Commanders. But then home to the Vikings, home to Las Vegas, at the Chargers, like 3 good matchups in a row coming up after the Thursday night game. So, I think he might struggle on Thursday night, and we'll talk about the rest of the players, but it was nice to see DJ Moore go off in this one, and so as Justin Fields goes, so does DJ Moore. So anyway, positive signs for Fields coming out of this game. The other thing is that my Twitter feed may or may not have been filled with rage tweets. I just don't read my Twitter feed. This is the other mistake you and I make.
Yeah.
The difference between us in terms of Twitter, because one of my shot for shots on yesterday's fantasy football pregame is I believe I said it on this show as well, Roschon Johnson's going to overtake the backfield from Khalil Herbert. That did not happen.
Well,
Big day for Khalil Herbert. 18 carries for over 100 yards, 4 catches for 19 yards. Roschon only 5 carries for 13 yards. I was with you all the way on this one, Barry, and all the noise from the insiders was that Roschon Johnson was getting a lot of momentum in this backfield, Jay, but Khalil Herbert kind of wins back control.
yeah, and I think the thing is that it's too early in the season for the Bears to just give up and start playing their young guys. And look, Khalil Herbert's good. Whenever he takes the field, he's good. He's been effective. He was more efficient and more explosive than Dave Montgomery last year. And look, he's still a viable option. I don't think seems like they're not ready to just transition. I think the good thing for all these guys, for Moore, for Fields, for Herbert, for Roschon later, it seems that at least they have the potential to put up 4-score games, which it was looking like they may not have.
79% of snaps, 58% of the team carries, both of those season highs for Khalil Herbert. So we will see what they do. I certainly don't love any of them on the road at Washington.
Yes.
My 2-2 should be 3-1 Commanders on Thursday Night Football. Last thing for me from this game here is Russell Wilson. Look, it wasn't always pretty, but he finishes with over 22 fantasy points as we head into Monday Night Football. He's a top 10 fantasy quarterback. He now has 6 games since Nathaniel Hackett was fired. He's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game, 20.7 in those 6 games, including 20-plus points in 4 of those games. He now has 2 different games with 3 or more passing touchdowns this season. Like, he only had 2 last year. The whole thing last year about will he have more touchdown passes or bathrooms in his house, right? You know,
it's a fair question.
Finally, I think bypassed it in the very last week of the season. So Wilson. Now, listen, the schedule does not get easier, right? They're home to the Jets this week. Then they're at Kansas City on a short week. That's a Thursday night game there. Home to Green Bay, and then home to Kansas City again.
Yeah.
So it's
Kansas City twice, 3 weeks.
Kansas City twice in the next 4 weeks. Yeah, and then, by the way, they get the Jets. It's the Nathaniel Hackett revenge game.
Yeah, that's
right. Oh, yeah. So this one's personal.
This one is personal. But anyway, I just think the 2 takeaways are here is that I do think Russell Wilson's usable as a fantasy quarterback, and number 2 is that he has been consistent enough that you feel good about the Jerry Jeudy and the Cortland Suttons of the world, and you know it seems like, and if they can ever get some more participation from Marvin Mims, then you think second half of the year I think Marvin Mims is going to become a thing.
Yeah, randomly 10 different Broncos caught passes yesterday, and no one had more than 3 receptions, which was weird. I don't think that's going to be as egalitarian of an offense going forward. And last thing on this one is that Javonte Williams, he got hurt. Jaleel McLaughlin came in. Connor, what's this guy's story?
Speed, and he can catch the ball. And you see the targets, but you see the 72 yards on 7 carries. He's a smaller scat back that has a ton of speed from a small school. He could fly. He can catch the ball. Peyton loves him. And I think another thing, we'll talk a lot about McLaughlin on waivers because he's going to be a hot name for waiver wired on Tuesday. But I think they wanted to get him on the field anyway when Javonte Williams was healthy. And now that he's not, Peyton has his guys, right? He drafted Mims early. They found this kid as a UDFA, and he just looks really, really good at the second level of the field, making guys miss.
He had a strong training camp, and they weirdly used him in the red zone a lot this year. You know, he scored the touchdown here. Like, I think there was another game this year where he had like 1 carry for 3 yards, but it scored a touchdown.
Right.
His 1 carry was from the 3 or something like that. So they seem to like that speed on the edge, especially when they get in close as well. So he'll be a popular name tomorrow as well. After the injury, it's worth noting, Samaje Perine did play 57% of the snaps. McLaughlin played 37% of the snaps. Again, to your point, we'll get in more into what we think the split will be tomorrow. But yeah, it's a tough break for Javonte Williams. We'll hopefully have more update, and he'll be back soon. But we'll know more tomorrow.
Our next game was an absolute thriller, the Rams at the Colts. And before we jump into this one, guys, we got to listen in on how it ended.
Stafford ready, calls for the snap. Here comes the rush. He throws right side alone. It's Puka at the 5 to the end zone. A walk-off winner. Nacua Matata. It means no worries.
How validated do you feel already?
Oh, boy.
Very validated. Jay Croucher told me I should not use that phrase. It's all Jay Croucher's fault. I feel like I should have copyrighted that. I should have copyrighted that.
You blew it now.
I blew it. I'm screwed. Now it's going to be on T-shirts and everything like that, and that guy's going to make a fortune.
Steven told me that we had sound for this game.
Yeah.
And he told me what the sound was, and I did not believe him. I knew we had the sound and we had to play it, but I was like, let's see what he actually says. It's a radio call for everybody that was not the actual TV broadcast call. Great radio call.
That was Westwood 1.
Great radio call.
Yeah.
And it actually was the no worries call. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
My genius knows no bounds.
Yep. No, apparently it knows no bounds. The Offensive Player of the Year vote, if it were held today.
Not rookie.
Yeah, no, Offensive Player of the Year vote. If it were held today, Christian McCaffrey would win, Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill would be second and third, and Puka Nacua would be fourth. He would be fourth. He's been the fourth best offensive. He's got 501 yards. He's leading the league in receptions. He's just been out of his mind, and it's not. I mean, look, Cooper Kupp coming back is going to complicate a lot of things, and I'm not sure what Nakua's role will be, but clearly he's too good to just be marginalized. He's going to continue to eat, and it was, I think, poetic that after he hadn't gotten in the end zone, and he was so close to getting in the end zone against the Bengals in particular, he finally does it in a walk-off win on the road. I mean, he's one of the stories of the season.
There's no question about it. There's two wide receivers that have 500 receiving yards this year, Justin Jefferson and Puka Nacua. There's two wide receivers that have 50 or more targets this year, Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. He's got a 32.5% target share this year. He's had at least 100 receiving yards in 3 out of 4 games this year. He truly means no worries to fantasy managers and Sean McVay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like...
He's on pace for over 2,100 receiving yards. I believe the record is 1964 by Calvin Johnson. So I don't think he's going to break it, but I mean, he's out of his mind, and it seems sustainable, just the type of player that he is. Yeah. He's not relying on these big Marvin Mims type of bombs. He is just eating in the soft parts of the coverage. And look, I'm very interested to see, how do you think Cooper Kupp coming back will affect him?
I think the target share is the biggest thing. Yeah. That's, I mean, to state the obvious, it's the target share. Where is Nacua going to be going for over 100 yards every single week? No, but is he effective PPR player? Absolutely. But in terms of the award chase, I do wonder if that kind of separates the gap. If C.J. Stroud ends up, top of the Rookie of the Year, things like that.
I think Stroud is the leader in that market, and they still have Bijan second. It's tough to win that award if you're going to be a wide receiver 2 on what looks like a 500-ish team. But Nakua's been incredible, and look, I think Cooper Kupp's not going to be full go Cooper Kupp from the get-go. I think Nacua is still going to get a ton of targets. It's just instead of being 9 for 163, he might be, a 6 for 75 guy.
I wish there was a way you could bet, like, hey, this guy's going to finish top 4 in like a bunch of categories.
Yes.
He's not going to win Offensive Player of the Year. He's not going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. But he's going to be like, there's going to be a lot of like,
he's going to be on the ballot.
He's going to be on a lot of ballots and get a lot of votes. And so, anyway, I agree with you. One of the best stories of the year. And until further notice, again, let's see what happens with Cooper Kupp. But like, and I'm also, by the way, I'm not selling high on him. Because that's the other question I keep getting is like, should I sell high on him before Cooper Kupp comes back? And I'm like, I don't think so, because I think the perception of what Cooper Kupp will do to his role is greater than the upside of potentially what Nacua could do the rest of the year. And so I don't think you're going to get that upside in a trade. I would rather just stay put, because, by the way, there's no guarantee that Kupp comes back this week or that he stays healthy all year, or that there isn't some sort of changing of the guard here a little bit that they, that, again, Puka Nacua, part of the Breakfast Club. Part of the Breakfast Club with Matthew Stafford, so now it's the 3 of them. I'm just saying.
But look, and to your point on Kupp, there's a few ways that can go south-ish for Kupp in a way that helps Nacua, between not coming back as quickly as thought, potential re-injury, maybe just coming off the injury, they use him in a less kind of target-dominant role, and Nacua remains the guy. So I think that, he's going to be a top 20 wide receiver.
They roll more coverage towards Cooper Kupp. Right. Like, we're not worried about, Puka Nacua when Cooper Kupp's out there. Anyway, it is a great story, and I would not trade him, is I guess the one takeaway I would get there. Another guy I wouldn't trade, Connor Rogers, is Kyren Williams, who, we didn't expect, we thought the Rams would have a locked-in, every snap, massive target share wide receiver. We just didn't think it was going to be Puka Nacua. Although I did say pick him up, and we have tape of me saying that in the preseason. Thank you very much.
We'll never show it, though.
I got to circle the wagons of that. I will say this. I didn't have Kyren Williams. As much as I was saying, like, hey, I think Puka Nacua is going to be a thing, I didn't think this was going to happen. But I did talk about him in the preseason, saying I know they like him, and he's worth a late draft pick. Kyren Williams was nowhere on my radar, guys, and he should have been. He has been nothing short of spectacular. Cam Akers is there. Kyren Williams touches the ball on like every play.
I'm shocked at the volume with Kyren Williams. When you look at him coming out of Notre Dame, I mean, he was a guy that you project as a third down back, a smaller third down back, runs hard, always has run hard, does all the little things right, great pass protector, everything you'd love about a third down back. The Rams don't care. They will give him as much volume as any running back in the league at this point. And not only is he capitalizing in the end zone, but he's also getting some pass game work as well, Jay.
He is. And look, I think the main thing for all these guys is that it appears the Rams are here to stay. Like, this is going to be a wild card contending type of team. I don't think they're going to contend for the division over the Niners or anything, but Stafford is playing at such a level. The defense has been solid enough, and the offensive line is keeping Stafford upright enough that I think this is a team that, is going to be in the mix to the end of the season. Is going to be playing their guys, going to be scoring points.
And that's what's important because it keeps Kyren Williams as a locked-in RB1. Since week 2, 83% of the snaps, 83% of the team's running back carries have gone to Kyren Williams. That kind of volume is impossible to find. Let's move to the other side of the ball now, and Anthony Richardson. Welcome back,
Yes.
Rich. What a
return.
What a game for him. 25 for 103, the 2 touchdowns. I'm sorry, 11 for 25 and the 200 yards and the 2 touchdowns. He also gets 10 carries, so his rushing carries prop, the over cashes there. I like the under at 9.5. I was wrong. But he also gets into the end zone as well. He's played 2 full games this season. 25.3 fantasy points per game. 51% of his fantasy points this season have come from rushing, which is helpful. I think he was on my love list. I had him as a top 5 quarterback, and that appears to have been wrong because I should have said he's going to be a top 2 quarterback because that's what he is as we head into Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and fantasy-wise, Monster led them back as well, and the rushing is immense. But, Connor, what have you seen from him as a passer? Because he was 11 of 25. And look, fantasy-wise doesn't really matter because he's getting the stats anyway, but in terms of the concerning signs about him as a passer so far.
I think with Anthony Richardson, he's going to follow that Cam Newton trajectory of it might look around 50, 54%, and you don't care because he airs the ball out. He's hitting some big throws. There was one throw down the middle, drop between the defense where maybe 6 guys in the league can make that. So I think he's a box score guy that you're like, you know what? He's going to make the big throws. He's going to miss at times. I don't think he has the greatest supporting cast through the air as well, Jay, that he can lean on a guy 14 times a game, 15 times a game. So I've been wildly impressed with Anthony Richardson. I've been even more impressed maybe or just as impressed with Shane Steichen. When you look at his departure from the Eagles and now what he's done with his quarterback for the Colts offense, where they know how to balance Anthony Richardson's running and downfield passing.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
It is really fun. It is really fun to watch. And, what's interesting is that I thought, hey, he's going to be the best fantasy quarterback. Like, he's the most ready. Like, for all the people that, the passing isn't there and everything like that. CJ Stroud's making a case for himself. I mean, Stroud's been terrific, but Richardson's just been so much better. Again, with the rushing and the passing, you'll get there. But he's competent enough as a passer that they can't disrespect it.
Yep.
Our final game here, guys, in our first segment, your Commanders at the Eagles. A thriller. A thriller for the Commanders. Sam Howell coming off a tough week, and
Not his name.
he bounced back. Ring of Honor, Sam Howell.
Future Hall of Famer.
Future
Sam Howell.
Hall of Famer.
I feel
Sam
better
Howell.
about that statement today than I did a week ago.
Oh,
I'll say
yeah.
that.
How could you not? Well, the bar was a little low, but he did look great yesterday.
I mean, come on. Give the man some credit here. Like, he balled out. He played well as a quarterback. To me, there's not a big fantasy takeaway from the Eagles side. The Eagles did what they did, right? Another awesome game from A.J. Brown. DeAndre Swift has clearly established himself as the running back you want. He got into the end zone. That's helpful. Jalen Hurts did Jalen Hurts things. This was in bounds.
Yeah.
Come on. Look at this. Like, so upsetting. I actually think what happened is this guy's, we're seeing the McLaurin play for those that are just listening to the audio. I honestly, that looks in bounds to me. I think they screwed this one up.
Yeah.
Jay, am I wrong? Like,
No,
They didn't
I
want to
think that's
overturn
inbounds.
it.
I think that's
And I
inbounds.
agree. I think it was in bounds as well. They got it wrong on the initial call, and they often don't overturn it unless it's overwhelming evidence. And that's kind of what happened there.
Do you think it was karma for Ron, no longer Riverboat Rivera, not going for 2 at the end?
Safety run?
Safety run. No, I don't know. I mean, like,
You got to go for 2 there, man.
You think you have
gotta go
to?
for 2 there. When you're the weaker team, and they're not as
Yes,
good as the
correct.
Eagles, and
I
you go to
agree.
overtime, and you got a 50% chance to end it, coin flip, you got to go for that.
I didn't hate it just because I felt like they had some momentum there and they could go for it, and I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it because I also thought, by the way, it was so sort of fluky to get into the end zone there at the end that I sort of like let's put together a drive and listen, they should have. I mean, again, the McLaurin thing gets called right, like he looks like a genius.
Sick
by
throw.
the way, brilliant throw by Sam Howell. And by the way, on the other side of the ball, like, Penn State Blake over there, who's a diehard Eagles fan, he's all smiles because he knows. There he is. Look at him. Look at him.
It's actually the happiest we've seen.
He's all smiley because he knows they got away with one because on that fourth down that was a false start. Like, the guy, like, I think it was the right guard that that moved. Like he was in the secondary by the time they actually snapped the ball. Seriously, go back and watch that play. But Penn State Blake, you agree, right? You guys did get away with one there.
4-0.
He just says 4-0.
Blake's very defensive about me criticizing his Eagles for not having done much yet. Well, I guess they beat the Patriots, Vikings, Bucks, and Commanders. So Super Bowl next. Looking forward, Blake, to them playing Dallas at KC, Buffalo, and San Francisco in succession. End of November, start of December.
If there's one other takeaway fantasy-wise, I don't think there's anything from the Eagles. But honestly, from the Commanders' side here, it was nice to see John Dotson get in the end zone. But I feel like Brian Robinson is sort of matchup-proof at this point. Like just as a locked-in RB2, he just runs so hard. And Terry McLaurin, 25.6% target share in Week 4. That's the highest in a game this season. Most targets, receptions, and receiving yards in a game. Like he looked like, oh yeah, that's Terry McLaurin. And again, if they call that play correctly in overtime, it's an even better day as well. But 8 for 86 in this one, 22.6 fantasy points. He's a top 10 wide receiver heading into Monday Night Football. It was just nice to see Terry McLaurin doing Terry McLaurin things. I think he's back to being that top 20-ish wide receiver he was drafted to be.
Yep, definitely, and had the big play taken away from him. I think the other takeaway, though, is that Sam Howell's got to stop taking sacks, because if he keeps taking 6 sacks a game,
brutal.
he is not going to make it through the season.
That I agree
He is
with.
on pace to exceed the sacks record by like 30%. That cannot continue. He needs to. I mean, it's admirable in a way because he's clearly tough, and he's taking these hits, and he's standing in the pocket. He's got to get rid of the ball more. He cannot keep taking this.
Like the offensive line's been brutal, but some of it's also on Howell. I agree with you. Anyway, much to discuss after their big victory over Chicago on Thursday night.
The toughest competition of the year is here. The biggest talents in men's rugby take the stage as 20 countries compete for 20 days of heart-pounding, hard-hitting action at the Rugby World Cup. Watch every match live on Peacock all the way through the final on October 28th. The game's also available on CNBC. We're going to break. When we're back, Weekend Warriors.
Deebo was right. 3 are left. They give it to McCaffrey off the left side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Touchdown! CMC!
Weekend Warriors, of course, highlighted by that guy right there, Christian McCaffrey, who we got the Cowboys, the 49ers for the first time ever on Sunday Night Football. You're loving this promo.
I do, because it's popcorn. I love popcorn. Popcorn's one of my big snacks, so I like it.
We can confirm. No, you've been gobbling it down in the ad break. Absolutely gobbling.
During the break.
Christian McCaffrey's good. Had an excellent game. Can I just say,
this down. What can we say about Christian McCaffrey that we haven't said before? He's awesome. He should have been the #1 player picked in fantasy drafts this year. He's amazing. He's our one true king.
I mean, he is kind of tier 1 by himself of fantasy players at the moment. I would say even above guys like Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. Among running backs, it's clearly him, and then there is a gap to whoever is #2, really. And you can make a case for a few guys.
And there's Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs also on Steven D'Agostino's team. Like, exactly. Like, all the players that have been crappy all year long, and then they just show
Jacobs
up
is no good. He didn't win the rushing title last year.
They play me until they're going off.
Can I just say about Christian McCaffrey, can we
sir.
please stop the McCaffrey MVP stuff? He's not the most valuable player on his own team. If only we had a game to reference where Brock Purdy got injured in the first half and see what the Niners look like without Brock Purdy. We did. The NFC title game where they had a non-functional offense without Brock Purdy. Purdy leads the league in passer rating in QBR. Since he came into the league, he's #1 in EPA per play among quarterbacks. He's 25-1 to win MVP. It's completely insane. He has longer odds than McCaffrey. I'm sorry, Purdy is much more important to that team than Christian McCaffrey. And I get it because his name is Brock Purdy and he was the last pick in the draft, but he's legitimately good at this point. And look, no one thinks he's the best quarterback in the league, but if you have the best season, then you win MVP. He should be like the 4th favorite for MVP, not have longer odds than Justin Herbert and Christian McCaffrey.
He won't, though. I feel like that's lost money if you put money on Brock Purdy to win MVP, because there's no way he wins it.
He doesn't get the credit.
That's right.
I think
if the Niners, here's where the credit will go. It'll go to Shanahan for Coach of the Year. Maybe it goes to
McCaffrey can win Offensive Player of the Year. I just think that if you lead the league in every efficiency metric on the best team and you're the quarterback, then all of a sudden, here's the thing.
The MVP will go to like the AFC champion. It'll go to Josh Allen or whoever.
Yeah, but people don't think of Brock Purdy as an MVP caliber player. If he beats up on the Cowboys and makes some big plays on Sunday Night Football, then all of a sudden the narrative shifts. So actually, Brock Purdy is a legitimate top 6, top 7 quarterback.
I disagree. I think the media has made up their mind, and I think that even if he does that, they'll be like, look at the scheme. Look, Kyle Shanahan scheming it open. Like, I could hit Deebo Samuel. He's so wide open. Look at that. What an unbelievable, run after the catch by George Kittle. That's what it's going to be. Brock Purdy will never get credit.
Also schemes up really good plays? Andy Reid. Does that take away from Mahomes having Kelsey and Tyreek Hill when he was winning MVP?
Except Patrick Mahomes was still a first-round pick who can throw the ball 80 yards from his knees. Yeah. Like he just, it's like it just is what it is. Anyway, we should move on. Christian McCaffrey's very good.
One that's a little bit more unique to Weekend Warriors.
There you go. That's my big takeaway.
Yes, start.
In terms of Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, keep it open.
Yeah, listen, keep it open, right. Exactly. Brandon Ayuk was good as well. Deebo didn't do much. He was hurt coming into the game, but whatever.
Another Weekend Warrior, rookie Michael Wilson on the Cardinals. Caught all 7 of his targets for 76 yards, but most importantly, why he makes this list, guys, Michael Wilson had 2 touchdowns, and this is now back-to-back weeks here, Barry, where Wilson is really cementing his role in Arizona's passing attack under Josh Dobbs.
He is. He had a nice camp, and he's secretly sort of been the guy. And I think one of the reasons he didn't get more attention is because no one thought Arizona was going to be any good. And we've talked about this a lot. By the way, Josh Dobbs will be on our waiver wire tomorrow as well. Like, Josh Dobbs is a QB1 through 4 weeks this season. Like, he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Josh Dobbs has proven 2 things. He deserves to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, and more importantly, he is good enough to make players relevant in fantasy, even in tough matchups. And that's what he did here. Marquise Brown had a decent game. Zach Ertz, should have had a touchdown. Like, don't get me started as somebody who had the Cardinals plus 14. At the end of Zach Ertz did. But, no. I mean, Michael Wilson is his 3rd straight game with, 55 or more receiving yards. They play the Bengals. They're at the Rams. They're at Seattle, home to Baltimore. Not a schedule that scares you as well. And so, we'll dive more into where you should rank him in the waiver column tomorrow. But I think this is more real than not. Again, he's had a really nice camp. He's a talented player. I mean, you tell me, where did you grade out Wilson when he came out of school?
He would have been a top 5 wide receiver last year for everybody. He just barely played football for the better part of 3 years. It was always something. He had a significant foot injury, another lower body injury. He goes to the Senior Bowl. He looks like maybe the best offensive player on the field watching those practices where you're going, okay, this is realistically a back-end of round 1 talent with day 3 medical. So he goes on day 2. That's basically how it goes. So the talent is phenomenal. If he stays healthy, this is who he is. This is not a fluke.
Yep. And look, the takeaway is Josh Dobbs is real. The fact that he goes 28 of 41 for 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, only takes 1 sack, had multiple touchdowns dropped as well. Should have had a much better day. Correct. And he's got weapons in Brown and Ertz when he's not dropping touchdowns, and Wilson and Connor in the backfield's been phenomenal. Didn't have a big day yesterday because the game script. But
a big fight after the game.
Yeah, this is a legit offense, and Dobbs is a legit quarterback.
Yeah. Marquise Brown, by the way, on my team against Steven. Drop the touchdown. Don't get me started.
7 for 96 is fine.
Jay, another pass catcher with a big day, Nico Collins. He caught 7 of his 9 targets for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. As C.J. Stroud goes, so do these Texans pass catchers.
Yep, and last week it was Tank Dell. This week it's Nico Collins. Nico Collins is an elite wide receiver at this point. And the big thing here, again, it's so tied to the quarterback. C.J. Stroud has been phenomenal in his first month in the NFL. And to me, the most stunning stat about Stroud is that behind that offensive line, where now we have backups getting injured and backups to the backup coming in, and going up against T.J. Watt and the Steelers, didn't take a sack the week before against Jacksonville. He's been so good at avoiding pressure, at stepping up in the pocket, and guys like Nico Collins and Tank Dell are benefiting.
Barry, Alvin Kamara, big day for fantasy because he has over 21 points, but an odd stat line, 11 carries, 51 yards. Get this, 13 receptions for 33 yards.
It's insane. And hey, Steven, throw up the tweet that I sent you. So I saw this on X this morning. This is from John Lagaza. Per True Media, 137 NFL players have gotten 13 or more receptions in a game since 2000. Only 5 managed under 80 receiving yards doing it when they got 13 or more receptions in a game, right? Jarvis Landry had 78, Julian Edelman 78, Jalen Samuel 73, LaDainian Tomlinson 72, Alvin Kamara 33. It's almost statistically impossible.
You think that's crazy?
Uh-huh.
It's the fewest receiving yards by a player with 10-plus receptions in a game since 1970. And per producer Damien, it's not just since 1970. That's just how far back the database goes. This has basically never been done.
By the way, I'm the only person in this table that was actually alive in 1970. Just, I was born in 1969. Like, that's how old I am. Like, I mean, just so you know, by the way, like December 29th, 1969. So I mean, like, just barely alive in 1970. Like, I don't remember.
Child
You know
of
what
the
I mean?
60s.
So Backdoor cover.
Right, exactly, 100%.
What
So
the Cardinals couldn't do.
No. So it'll be really interesting to see. Like, the positives here is the usage, right? Like he had a 75% snap rate. Of the 28 teams running back touches, he got 24 of them. Derek Carr was a surprise start, after injuring his shoulder, and so maybe that was it. He needed to dump off. He felt like he couldn't chuck it deep. I don't know. This is weird, but this also makes me nervous because, again, I don't think you can count on this kind of usage. By the way, coming up, they're at New England. That's a tough matchup. They're at Houston. That's a much better defense than they get credit for. Home to Jacksonville. Again, like a solid defense at Indy. So it's not it'll be interesting to see. You're happy to see it, but I think the jury's still out on what Kamara will be this year.
I think the jury's still out on the Saints offense in general. This is 2 years in a row where they've just looked so stuck in the mud. And this team has so much talent, and we'll get to Chris Olave, but between him, the rejuvenated Michael Thomas, Derek Carr is an upgraded quarterback. They just cannot get out of the mud. And this it should be a more explosive offense, and it's just not.
Yeah, and Carr doesn't look right. But we'll get more into the Saints.
We can go.
We'll get more into the Saints offense, but before we do, obviously, as we get into the Sunday Scaries, we're getting closer to Halloween, a lot of Scaries. The Bengals plan on being full participants. We got to hear from Jamar Chase, a very frustrated Jamar Chase, after the game yesterday.
Probably my first time seeing him through this injury, an injury like this, besides, that knee. But being on the team with him just the first time like that. So, he just going through a little adversity. He's going to be back good.
4 games this season. Do you feel like you've had less time to get open and create space for yourself?
Nah, I'm open. I'm always open. Excuse my profanity. I'm sorry.
That was Jamar Chase, the man that says he's always
effing open.
He ain't wrong.
No, he ain't wrong.
As we show you Joe Burrow's stats here, Joe Burrow headlines our Sunday Scaries, Jay. 20 of 30, 165 yards and a fumble. This has just been the season from hell for Joe Burrow so far.
Who'd you rather have the rest of the season, Matthew? Joe Burrow or Josh Dobbs?
I'm going to say Joe Burrow, but man, oh man.
You don't feel great about it.
I don't feel great about that.
Yeah. I mean, he's just clearly not right. I think the positive, Connor, would be that they've got 2 games coming up against the Cardinals and Seahawks, and then they hit their bye.
But I
and
said it last week against Tennessee.
No,
I was dead wrong.
Well, it's more about the bye. Just means you get 2 more games, then you get to the bye.
No,
then hopefully it's calf and
I'll completely own this, right? I mean, Joe Burrow was one of my big loves this week as well. I on my shot for shot, I said he'll be a top 3 fantasy quarterback today. I used him as the anchor in my DraftKings DFS lineup. That won me no money.
Same.
I mean, like, I'm just like, no, I mean, like, I called it wrong on this one. I'll just, it's just tough. Like, he's been under 9 fantasy points in 3 or 4 games this season. He's had 0 touchdown passes in 3 or 4. I don't know that you can start him with any confidence until you see something here, especially, by the way, T. Higgins is now going to miss multiple weeks with a fractured rib injury. He leaves this game. So a quarterback that's struggling is down one of his big weapons, Connor. I'm nervous here.
Right, and you have all these guys that are streamer worthy at this point, right? Josh Dobbs, Russell Wilson, like
C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud, where you're looking at Burrow right now and you're going, until I see it, because I've now been burned for what, a month? Yeah. Been burned a month. I'd rather try one of those other guys.
And the kind of the middle class of quarterbacks, which I think is, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins, all those guys I feel better about than Burrow if Higgins is out and his calf isn't right. Now, I do think there will be a point where he is a buy low, particularly when he goes through the bye week. But, it's not looking good for Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
Just jokes aside, but who would you rather have this week? You don't do rankings for us, but who do you rank higher? Joe Burrow at Arizona or future Hall of Famer Sam Howell home to Chicago on a short week?
Sam Howell. Yeah, I think it's Sam Howell.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't make
I just
me
wanted
ask
to make
you
him say
if you'll
something
take
positive
Zach
about
Wilson
Sam Howell.
against the Broncos.
No, I'd take Joe Burrow over Zach Wilson.
All right. Let's get back to the Saints offense because Chris Olave also makes this list. He caught 1 of 5 targets for 4 yards. Jay, Derek Carr just didn't even look right coming off. Nothing looked right in this offense.
No, and I think you kind of have to throw it out because Carr clearly didn't look like himself, physically didn't look right, and there's just going to be these type of games. I will say it is weird that they just don't force feed it to Olave more. First half of the Carolina game as well, he's just unsighted, and Carr was fully healthy for that game. So, look, there just has to be a reorientation where they just need to force feed Chris Olave because he's one of the top 10 most talented wide receivers in the game.
Very quiet day for Deebo Samuel, who dealt with injuries.
I have a friend who started Chris Olave in his guillotine league and is likely to get cut.
Is he
tonight.
chopped?
He might be. It's gonna be close tonight.
Yeah,
Welcome to the party, pal.
It's Jay Croucher.
Oh, no, sorry.
I got 5 points out of Chris Olave and TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, no, it's
fun.
for you.
Yeah, no sympathy over here. Okay. Deebo Samuel dealt with a knee and a lot of different injuries throughout the week of practice, and it translates to a game where Barry, he really just didn't do much. Probably didn't need to do much, quite frankly, but quiet day for Deebo Samuel.
It was, but if there's a positive here, he played on 87% of the offensive snaps, right? You know, he ran 10 routes, didn't catch a pass. That's the first time that's happened in his career. I don't think that's going to happen again. Just a bad day at the office. Again, I was surprised he actually suited up and played. He didn't practice all week, and then they just didn't need him because Ayuk and McCaffrey were going crazy.
Jay, the struggles for Rhamondre Stevenson continue. 14 carries for 30 yards. The Patriots' offense was abysmal yesterday, and Rhamondre, this has been a bad season for Rhamondre Stevenson so far.
Hasn't been great. He hasn't looked right. Hasn't looked explosive. I will say that at least he had 14 carries to Ezekiel Elliott's 6.
Right.
So at least that didn't flip. And look, this game was just a total write-off. Mac Jones, that's the worst I've ever seen him play. I've also really ever seen a quarterback play in general. He was atrocious. I think you've just got to throw it out and hope that Rhamondre bounces back.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, though, here's their next 3 of their next 4, right? Or they're home to New Orleans. You don't love that. At Las Vegas, okay, fine. Home to Buffalo.
Yep.
That's 2 of their next 3 are tough matchups, I think, in the Saints and the Bills. They are home games for the Patriots as well, but you hope he can get up and snide. But I think he's probably still like a low-end RB2 that you're hoping. You wish for more passing game involvement. That's the crazy part, is only 2 receptions in this game, in a game in which they were getting blown out from moment 1. But to your point, Mac Jones struggled mightily against the Cowboys. A lot of people struggled mightily against the Cowboys.
Yep.
Our last one, Miles Sanders, 13 carries for only 19 yards, 3 catches for 13 yards here. Barry, just nothing working for Miles Sanders and a very questionable offense right now.
I mean, listen, they should have been able to move the ball against Minnesota, and they didn't. If there's one positive about Miles Sanders, he's got 23 targets this year, second most among running backs. He did catch 3 balls for 13 yards in this one, so if there's some positive, it's that he is getting some passing game involvement, which has not always been a consistent in his career. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the offense just isn't as good under Bryce Young as it is under Andy Dalton. And so it just depends on sort of what they want to do with this team. I think they're 0-4 now, right? And so, at what point do you say, that's probably bad news for Miles Sanders, because at 0-4 you just say, like, let's just get the kid reps. And so I don't think they're going to make a change at quarterback here. They're at Detroit, they're at Miami, then they've got to bye, and they're home to Houston. That's tough. Yep. I mean, the Lions are a decent defense. The Miami Dolphins, in both games, I feel like they're going to get down big, and so, and then the bye. He's a flex. He's a hope for a touchdown flex at this point.
Yeah, and he had injury concern coming in, and Chuba Hubbard got work as a result of that. Just a weird game overall. There were 2 defensive touchdowns in it, and the game still barely got within 2 touchdowns of the total. The under 47 hit with ease. So look, I mean, Bryce Young, not great. Again, he completed more passes, but at the same time took 5 sacks. Didn't look great out there.
I also thought that line. I mean, we talked about this. We liked the under in that game because we talked about, like, how are these teams scoring points? Like, again, the Panthers actually have a decent defense. The Panthers don't have a good offense. Like, I don't know how they're going to be able to do that there. But I don't know that there's a takeaway here other than just, like, feels like Adam Thielen's the only part of the Panthers offense that you feel like you can, somewhat trust.
Bleak sentence.
Crush your Sunday Scaries next weekend with the best remedy possible, Sunday Night Football.
You guys should have some of this popcorn. It's really
Check
good.
out NBCSports.com/ScaryGoodSNF to enter for a chance to win a trip for 2 to a Sunday Night Football game next season. And check out our watch party schedule. We're going to break. When we're back, last call, Monday Night Football preview. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code BARRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. It's time for last call, and here's the most bet Monday Night Football props, courtesy of our friends at DraftKings, led by Daniel Jones passing touchdowns under 1.5, Geno Smith passing touchdowns under 1.5, Kenneth Walker rushing yards over 62.5, DK Metcalf receiving yards over 60.5, Geno Smith passing yards over 250.5. Jay, you taking anything from this board, or do you have a best bet of your own away from the public?
Well, firstly, it's good to see the public taking some unders.
That's
Usually it's
rarity.
over heavy, like that.
All it took
Good
was
to see.
doubting Daniel Jones.
Yes,
Very brave.
Yes, indeed, in prime time, no less. I'm taking an alternate line here, and it's a big line. It's a home run swing, but for a home run hitter, and that's Kenneth Walker to go 125 plus rushing yards at plus 1,000. I just think that they are going to be in game script where they can run it a lot. I think the Giants are not going to run a ton of plays because their offensive line is just unviable, and I think that Walker, who is getting the lion's share of work, he will have opportunities just through volume and through being able to break one to go 125 plus.
He's also, right to your point, like he is a home run hitter.
Yes.
I mean, like not only is the bet a home run a swing, but he's a home run hitter. Like he's a guy that could have a 65-yard touchdown scamper, and he immediately gets there.
Hit this twice last year.
Yeah, exactly. I actually really like that call. I'm going to stick with Kenneth Walker, but I'm just going to go anytime touchdown, which is obviously at plus money. Look, his touches have increased every week. You mentioned that, 18 each of the last 2 weeks. But the Giants have allowed a rushing touchdown to a running back every game this season. Every game this year, an opposing running back has scored on them. If there's a running back touchdown in this game, it's most likely Ken Walker as well. He's top 3 among all running backs in the NFL in goal to go and red zone carries through 3 weeks. We know that unless the Super Bowl is on the line, Pete Carroll likes to run when he gets in close. So, yeah, I mean, there's not a Super Bowl on the line, so likely they get in close. He'll run it with Ken Walker.
Guys, I have a fun one for you. I'm going Seattle wins the race to 15 points at minus 120. Let's be real here.
Right.
Not only the Giants slept walk through their games this year, they haven't gotten to 15 points 2 out of the 3 games. So, listen, I know Seattle has to travel a long way to play this game. I like Seattle's offense tonight a lot. I'm shocked that's minus 120. I think Geno gets them to 15 well before the Giants.
Not a bad one. Just to put some money on the Giants here. How about this? I'll take the over on 46.5 receiving yards for Darren Waller. It's been a while. We haven't seen the Darren Waller we expected in the preseason, but he's now had back-to-back games with 7 or more targets. See how Seattle allows the highest yards per reception to opposing tight ends. The middle of the field is somewhere where you can attack with the Seahawks. I do think primetime game, they're going to want to try to get something going. Waller's their best offensive option now that Saquon Barkley is unlikely to play tonight. So give me the over on 46.5 receiving yards for Darren the Baller Waller.
Yep, I like that.
All right, that's it for us. For everybody else, enjoy a lot of Daniel Jones doubt tonight. It's coming from this desk. It's coming from the public. That
For
never
everyone,
bodes well.
listen, it's closing time, which means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. For every single person on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour crew, except Penn State Blake, screw that guy, we would like to say good luck in Monday Night Football tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. For Jay, Connor, Matthew, and all of us here, except Blake, peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.